For some reason, I'm feeling a little bit emotional right now. Tom, who are you?
I'm the police chief of Kanab City.
Okay. How long have you been the police chief of Kanab City?
20 years.
20 years.
20 years.
Were you the next police chief after my dad?
Yes. Worked with your dad for 11 years as his sergeant, and 8 years before that, we worked together as he was my sergeant. And I had a couple, 2 or 3 years before that we worked together. I worked for the sheriff's office and he worked for the city police at that point. So over 25 years together.
Right.
And then he retired and I took over 20 years ago already.
So who hired you?
Kim Lawson was the mayor.
Okay.
Keith McAllister was the city manager.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a board together and took applications, went through the interview process, and I lucked out, I guess.
So who was Tom before he got hired to be a Kanab City police?
I was born and raised here and graduated from high school here and worked at Kanab Industries, the sawmill. Didn't take the opportunity to go to college, and so an opening came up for the new jail at the time, which is in the courthouse, and I applied for it. Thought maybe this is an opportunity for me to do something with myself and make my parents proud and not have to leave Kanab.
How old were you, 18?
I was 20.
20.
Yes. Worked a whole year for the sheriff's office before I went to the police academy.
Okay.
So started young. So total I have 42 years, or coming up on 42 years as a police officer here, and partly because I started so young, and I've lost a couple of wives to cancer, and just life happens. And so 42 years later, here I sit.
Here you are. It's a big accomplishment.
Been a long time. It's been fun.
I won't tell you that that's pretty much all of my life.
Yes,
I am getting up there, but
I have officers that work for me that weren't even born when I started, so yeah, makes me feel old.
that's pretty cool though, honestly. When you applied for your position to be a police officer, did you have concerns? Were you hesitant?
Yeah, I didn't really think I had a chance. I played in a band at that point, 20 years old, and we played in a lot of bars around the area, and of course with the band there's an image, so you have long hair and
You still kind of flow that rocker image.
so I wasn't sure that I'd even have a chance, but thank goodness Johnny Glazier was the sheriff at the time. He was in his last year of, then he left, and Benny Riddle was taking over as sheriff, and Steve Welch was here at the time as chief deputy, and they gave me a chance. So I appreciate them for doing that. It's 42 years, a long time.
42 years is a long time.
Yeah.
42 years later, here you are. Took a chance on a rocker. Which you still play, by the way.
I do still play on occasion.
Drums, guitar.
Both.
Both.
Yep.
Do you play in a band? Do you play
not
do you play at some bars? The Buckskins kind of hop in these days.
Occasionally I have a band ask me to play with them, and I sit in with them. I'm not currently in a band. I just lost my high school band teacher, who ended up being an uncle. He was my wife's uncle, and he just passed away. And
Here at Kanab High School.
he was the band teacher at Kanab High School.
Who was that?
His name was Ron Hamlin.
Ron Hamilton.
He left and went to South Severe and finished his teaching career up there. But he was born and raised here, and was a great band teacher with a huge influence on
I was
many
just
kids.
gonna ask that. He was
So-
was he your kind of one of your big influencers as far as
Absolutely.
wanting to be a rocker?
Yeah. So band was my favorite subject in school, and just something I really enjoyed. And I'm going to say when I was about 20, late 20s, early 30s, I got the opportunity to play and open for the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band,
Oh.
who was Ron Hamlin, the band teacher, was a big fan of theirs, and I didn't know he was going to be there. He bought tickets and went to the concert. He didn't know I was playing in the band.
Yeah, right.
And kind of blew his mind. It was kind of fun. And he said,
Proud moment.
in the autograph session, as he's walking through, he looked at me, and of course, I'm married to his niece, but he had no idea. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Just living the dream." And he said, "You were my worst band student, very worst band student." I said, "Well, thanks. Thanks for the compliment." And anyway, this was a moment, kind of blew his mind. And I started playing in his band after that, off and on.
Well, yeah, he's got to let you at that point.
Yeah, so we had a lot of fun together over the years.
Oh, that's a cool story. I didn't know that. Did you have any doubts about becoming a police officer in a town that you grew up in?
Yes. It's difficult knowing everybody, especially in those days.
It's a blessing and a curse.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. In those days, everybody knew everybody, and everybody's business was everybody's business. And I'm pulling over friends and people I went to school with. I have to take them to jail sometimes. It wasn't easy, but I found for the most part everybody was respectful. They respected my position, and most of them to this day we're still friends. We still talk, and they don't hold it against me, and I don't hold it against them. People make mistakes, and I just did my job. So, but yeah, it was difficult, for sure.
How do you handle working with your loved ones or your friends when maybe you're working that investigation? Is that a challenge?
Absolutely. You have to know at some point when you have to step away and let somebody else do it. When your ties are too close, and there's just a fine line there where you have to just say, I have to walk away from this, let somebody else handle it. And that's happened a few times, not very many. For the most part, it's gone pretty smooth and been able to get through things. But yeah, it's a challenge for sure. So
speaking of crime, what would you say the crime is like here in Kanab?
It's very low. It's a great place to live, especially violent crime. We have very little violent crime. Some of our biggest things are domestic violence. Sad to say, theft sometimes is up. It's not currently. We go through little phases sometimes where I don't know if it's drugs or what really causes it, but it seems to come and go. But for the most part, Kanab is a super place to live and raise your kids. It's a really safe place.
Well, I still know people that go into the grocery store across the street and leave their keys in their car.
Oh, they do.
If not, leave their car on.
They do. I discourage that as best I can.
Yeah.
But we've had a few auto thefts over the years, and
but people feel safe enough to do that.
They feel safe enough to do
I take my keys everywhere. They're right behind me. I don't dare go in anywhere without having my keys, but that's probably because I grew up with a dad in law enforcement.
Right. Lots of people don't lock their doors at home. Sometimes they do it at night when they go to bed. For the most part during the day, they just leave their homes wide open. And I don't encourage that.
Yeah, but that's what I love about Kanab, is typically you are safe enough to just be fine with whoever is at your front door.
Chances are you'd be 100% safe doing that, but it just takes one time for it to be the wrong person, and there you have a problem.
There you have a problem. What do people not know that might be challenging for you and your men?
Well, it's not necessarily challenging. Like every community has a drug problem. I don't care where you go, there's a drug problem. We do a really good job here of keeping our thumb on it, so to speak. We have a drug task force that works hard to keep the pressure on people that we suspect are dealing drugs, and anyway, it helps to keep it low. It's usually, for the most part, pretty well under control here. We're not perfect, and we have drug court, and it's a good program for people that have addiction problems, and I just think we do a really good job of keeping a handle on it as best we can, and it helps make our community safer.
You know, I wouldn't say I knew Kanab had a drug problem, or every town had a drug problem.
They do.
So
I assure you they do. One of the challenging things we have here is we are close to other communities.
Right.
Fredonia's just 7 miles south. You know, Orderville's to the north, and living this close, we can kind of help control what happens here as best we can, but we can't necessarily control what happens there. And so we work together with the law enforcement and those agencies, and it seems to work out pretty good. So
how does the task force work, or the police department collaborate with the school districts to keep their schools safe?
we have a great working relationship with the school district. The sheriff's office here provides school resource officers. There's 2 currently, one in the valley and one here in Kanab. And they teach law enforcement class to the students, and it's a very popular class. They keep it full all the time. And we spend as much time as possible driving around our schools, being there in the mornings when drop-off is and when pickup is, trying to slow traffic down. You know, throughout the day, we randomly stop by, walk through, check doors, make sure doors are locked up, and the kids are feeling safe. And it's kind of a nice advantage to a small town.
Mm-hmm.
There's time to do those kinds of
I
things.
think that's important for a lot of people because, of course, that's like a big thing right now, safety in our school systems and whatnot. But I've always felt like my kids are safe, and I always feel like I see a representation of a police officer or the sheriff's department or something at school functions, during the day. I feel like our kids are pretty safe here.
I appreciate the working relationship we have with the school district, with the sheriff's office, with the highway patrol. It takes all of us working together to have this safe, quiet community.
Mm-hmm. Is there any advice you received from somebody that you now give on to, pass on to?
Yeah, your dad gave me a lot of advice, and some of that was to get to know your community, stay involved in the community, stop at the businesses, talk to the business owners, talk to the employees at the businesses, spend time at the school, get to know the people, do what needs to be done to keep it a quiet, peaceful, crime-free community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the old saying that came out of the last few years, that you see something, say something, is huge. And we can't be everywhere, we can't see everything, we can't control what people do, but if everybody else reports what they see, I mean, nobody wants to be a tattletale,
Right.
but we need the eyes and ears of everyone, and it's just what makes our community stay safe. And you know, you can go home at night and go to bed and sleep,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that someone's out there and taking care of things and keeping us safe. And no, it's not perfect. It never will. I encourage my guys, especially my new guys on night shift, to spend a lot of time walking around businesses, checking doors, and being seen. The old days, the police walked a beat. We don't do that so much anymore. So we kind of need to get
Walked a beat.
back to that. Yeah. So they spend time on foot, walking up and down the streets, and crowds of people, and checking in businesses and things like that. And so there's way more to it than just driving around in a police car and being seen. You've got to get out and get involved with your community, and talk with people, and find out what's going on. And that's how you get information and know where the problems are, so that you can concentrate on those problems.
Okay, I just have one more question for you. As the police chief, as Tom Cram, if you could say anything to somebody wanting to move to Kanab, what would you say?
I would say that it's a great place to raise your kids. It's low crime. We pride ourselves on keeping it that way. And the people are just amazing. I mean, if you get out and get involved in the community and get to know the people, they're friendly, they're kind, and I mean, just can't beat this place. I don't care if you ride motorcycles, ride horses, you hike, whatever it is you do, you can find it here. It's available for you. And we welcome everybody. And the town's growing. And
How do you feel about the growth?
I like it. I encourage it. I mean, there's good things that come with growth, and it just has to happen. I'm for slow growth. I don't want it to happen all at once. If it comes slowly, we can prepare for it and keep up with it and not have big city problems sneak up on us. So I'm excited about some of the new developments that are coming in, and so far, the vast majority of the people that have moved here have been great people. They're not criminals or problem causers. They're good people that want to help and be part of the community. And anyway, that Kanab is just a wonderful place.
Period.
I
Exclamation point.
have to be honest, I've never lived anywhere else, so I have nothing to compare it to. But I can tell you, I'm coming up on 62 years old, and I wouldn't change it for anything. So it's the best place in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. I do agree.